welcome back to another season of Pajama Party Profits. Took a bit of a hiatus there, and I am so excited because I have met so many awesome people that are out and completing their journey, especially in times like these. More and more people are trying to figure out how they are going to profit while at home or while traveling if they're allowed to do so, but basically, or in their PJs. And you never know if I'm wearing those pajama party pants. Today might be that day. I am so happy to welcome you to the season 2, Steve Garvin. He is someone who I've recently met while doing a whole bunch of networking, even though I'm doing it from my couch. And Steve has a wonderful message to share with you. But first, we're going to start with his story. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Brenda. It's nice to be here.
Yes, you just recently, before I forget to mention, you recently interviewed me on your upcoming channel. So we will post a link to that so you can see me in the hot seat. It doesn't happen as often. I love to ask the questions, not answer them, but thanks for having me there. So we'll make sure that people get to check out your YouTube channel as well. But tell me, you kind of describe in your bio, which I just didn't read, but you got to explain to me basically in your bio that you said it was a grind. You called the corporate world a grind. Tell me what was going on there.
Well, I just got off the phone with somebody else just a minute before joining you today. And what we were talking about was how corporations tend to judge their success on how efficient and effective they're being, right? So, an efficient is how smoothly you can make something happen, and effective is making the right things happen, right? And that's all fine and great if what you're being efficient and effective about are things that have an internal reward for you, right? If you're enjoying what you're doing, you can be efficient and effective all day long. But if it doesn't have an emotional reward, if it doesn't have an emotional payback for you, then being efficient and effective is kind of like being Sisyphus and pushing the rock up the hill, and you keep pushing the rock up the hill, but it doesn't ever become this wonderful experience because it's just a grind. And so what I realized was, I can keep being Sisyphus and pushing the rock up the hill, or I can get off that hill and find a place where I enjoy what I'm doing a whole lot more.
Okay, so that's a nice little visual there. We're pushing the rock up. It's getting there. That's what we need to get done. It's something that you know how to do, so you can do it. You've got the muscles, you've got the skill. But us being humans, it doesn't last very long. Even in the Bible, they said, why are we getting all this free manna? We can't live on just this, right? It's like human instinct. We have to have some more, but we are also designed to have something to reach for. And so you decided that the corporate world was not for your reach. So what did you do? Did you just stop, or did you make a plan, or what happened?
Well, what happened was I was given my pink slip of opportunity, as I like to call it. And when I was literally leaving the building after getting that pink slip, I literally felt like doing cartwheels. I mean, I was just so relieved and felt so good that I didn't have to keep pushing that rock up the hill. But it didn't take me very long before two things happened. One, I realized I didn't want to go back to that type of work and that type of environment, and wanted to start pursuing some of my entrepreneurial interests, which I'd been putting on the back burner for many years. So I realized that. And then what also happened was I realized that finding myself outside of that environment, which was really familiar, and there was some comfort to it, that I was out in the creative wilderness. And if you've ever been out in the wilderness, and out in the middle of nowhere, if you know where you are, that's it's great. Going hiking or going rafting or whatever, it can be really exciting. But if you find, I had a friend who a couple of years ago went down to New Zealand, and she was on this glacier, and she could see this, the group that she was in could see this formation off in the distance. And they're like, well, let's just walk over there because that looks really cool. And the guide was like, you have no idea how long it's going to actually take to get there. Because it looks close, but it's actually going to take at least a day to get over there. We can't just like hop over there. It's just really far. And so out in the creative wilderness, it's kind of like a kid being in the candy store, right? You've got like all this candy around you. It's like, and everything looks good. And you're like, oh my gosh, I could have this, and I could have this, and I could have that. And you, if you're anything like me, you try a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and pretty soon your mouth is full of chocolate and butterscotch and everything, and your stomach starts to hurt because you've gorged yourself on all the candy that's available to you, right? And that's kind of what happened.
I think what I'm hearing you say, yeah, is that you had this big sigh of relief. I don't have to do that anymore, and a determination. I'm not going to do that anymore, but no real plan yet. And I had a similar story. I would show up every week to the same networking event, and they didn't know what are you today? What business are you running today? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's why I call it the creative wilderness, because it's like, you're out in this place, and it can be really beautiful and amazing and wonderful. But if you don't know where you are and how you're going to get to wherever it is that you want to go, it can feel kind of bewildering. It can feel kind of like Alice in Wonderland and meeting the Cheshire Cat. The Alice goes to the Cheshire Cat, how do I get to, I don't know where to go from here. And the Cheshire Cat says, well, it really depends on where you want to get to. And Alice responds, well, I don't know where I want to go to. And, it's just this whole back and forth about, well, if you don't know where you're going, it doesn't really matter which way you take to get there. And so, leaving the environment, which was very, very structured. Accounting is an incredibly regulated field, and there's all kinds of, there are whole books that are, these tomes about how you do things. It's not just go do whatever you want to do. It's you've got to follow these regulations in order to be compliant. And so I left that behind and didn't have to follow those guidelines anymore, which was great. But at the same time, it's like, oh crap, what do I follow now? And it took some time for me to really get in touch with the compass that guides my life today.
Very good. Yeah, I can appreciate that so much. I don't know why, but it came up to kind of compare that to the teenager, right? The teenagers and the 2-year-olds. When I wrote a book about 2-year-olds, and I really wanted to compare that to the teenage life because they're very similar brain function wise, believe it or not. And that's one of the reasons, is because you draw a line in the sand and you expect them to test that line. But if there's no line, there's this no feeling of safety either. So right. Here you were with this complete freedom, and all of a sudden, like, no, right, where do I go from here? I love that. Yes, the discussion with the Cheshire Cat, I can see it. So how did you figure it out?
Well, one of the things that I eventually learned to do, and one of the tools that I latched onto early on in the journey was something called morning pages, which is where in the way it's presented is first thing in the morning, you wake up and you write 3 longhand pages of whatever stream of consciousness writing, just whatever comes to your mind, right? And I used a site called 750words.com which provides all kinds of metadata and so forth. But by getting into the habit of writing every single day, certain things just started to show up over and over again, and I started to gain a familiarity with where I was and what I wanted and who I was. Prior to that, I'd largely been focused on, the external, I've got to do these reports. I've got to, make this project happen. I've got to do this programming and so forth, and, get my degrees, get this job and all this kind of thing. And it was very externally driven. But through writing and kind of exploring my internal wilderness, if you will, I began to get to know myself so much better. And I started to shift from, where all my attention was on what was in my head, in my mind, being very cerebral, to being much more heart-based and listening to what was going on. What were the desires of my heart? What were the things that, that my heart was saying that I hadn't been listening to for some time? And being in a, reviving the creative interest that I had, and kind of going back to that candy store analogy, I explored lots of different ways of expressing myself creatively. So I did paper mache, and I did jewelry making, and I did drawing, and I did painting, and I wrote, and all this kind of stuff. And just kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to be doing and what felt natural and right for me. And by exploring all those things and just spending time in there and allowing myself to be in the creative wilderness, it became more comfortable and more familiar. And I began to find how to navigate the wilderness from where I was to where I wanted to be, right? It's kind of like when I moved here. I recently moved from Washington State, Tacoma area, to Asheville, North Carolina, which is about a 2,400 mile change in place. And when I moved here, we live in an area that's surrounded by forest. And I went out into the forest, and I'm just like, okay, I see trails going all over the place, but I don't know, I'm not familiar with the territory. It's kind of like the old adage, you can't see the forest for the trees, right? I mean, it's so in your face that you can't really see where you are. And that first experience of stepping into that forest and seeing all those trails was like, okay, I don't know where to go from here. But after spending time, and I go hiking up there pretty much every day, now it's really familiar territory, and I know how to get from this point to this point to that point. It's a whole lot more comfortable, and it's a whole lot much more of an enjoyable experience going there than it was in the beginning. So to answer your question, it was just really getting to know who I am, what I really care about, and what value I can bring to the world.
So you do a great job of painting a picture of really what's going on in so many people's heads when they are trying to decide where to go from here. And sometimes, like me, it's due to an illness where they're just kind of, everything comes to a standstill, and where do I go from here? I think we all feel that once we get to that point of realizing I didn't really like it there anyway. Like, I think a lot of us feel that way. And being stuck somewhere like you were, and were pink slipped, like so many are being done today, they can still feel that. But if they are stuck, it can get to the point where I was, right? Like feeling misaligned where you're working and the environment that you're in can actually cause physical, it can have physical ramifications, I guess is what we're saying. So
definitely
you did a really nice job of picturing what happens next, right? When you get to that, okay, I can do whatever I want. What do I So I get that. Really great picture. And then I love your analogy of, you just keep moving. The one thing you don't want to do is hide under a rock or or in your bed with the sheets over your head for too long. Um, because when you take action, even if it's imperfect action, you're getting data. You're
Mm.
getting to know what you like, what you're good at, what people receive well, what is doable, what's not doable. And you, like you said, you get more comfortable. So where did you land? Like what? Well, I'll tell you what, we'll keep it a surprise because we're going to play a quick game. All right. Because it's kind of, that's what we do in the middle. We can't have a party if we don't play a game. So we're
Okay.
going to,
Sounds-
I think I have won 2 out of 10 games. So this is all about you. I win if you don't guess. So I, before the show, put something in the box. This is almost, this is like Christmas week when we're taping this today.
Okay.
So we have, or the week before Christmas, I guess. So I have put something in here, and I'm even going to give you one hint. No, I won't give you that hint because it could confuse you. So how many, I asked you before, and you couldn't even come up with, you said I made you go into your accountant brain, and I don't want to make you suffer. So I'm going to say, I keep getting a number 5, but I'm feeling generous. I'll give you 7 yes or no questions.
7 yes or no questions. Okay.
Yes.
And they're
So
yes or no
about
questions.
what's in the box. Yes.
Okay.
And we didn't do this one live, so we don't know. We don't know if we've got people saying that I was unfair. If you think I was unfair with 7, you can boo me in the comments. It's okay.
Well, I was thinking 5, so 7 is generous. So.
Oh, it is. Okay, 2 bonus ones. We were both thinking 5. Okay.
So the first question is it something you can eat?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a snack?
Yes.
Is it salty?
Yes.
Is it, gosh. Is it chips?
No. Was that 4?
That was 4.
Okay.
Is it nuts?
No.
Salty, and it's not chips or
And
nuts.
it's not what you heard rattle before we went on live either. It doesn't make that kind of noise.
Okay.
That was just moving something out of the way.
Gosh. Is that 5?
I think so.
Okay. Is it? Geez. I'm totally blanking as to what else is. So not chips, not nuts. Is salty.
It can be very, very fragrant.
Very fragrant. Oh. Is it manufactured or is it natural? I guess that's 2 questions, but do you get it in the produce section?
No, you don't get it in the produce section.
You get it in the snack section.
Yep. So what is it?
Okay, not chips, not nuts.
You get it at the movie theater.
Popcorn.
Yes. That's right. It's a box of popcorn. I didn't know how to say it. Manufactured, like kind of natural, kind of not. Yeah, and it's usually very salty. So yeah, I'm glad the movie theater one got you. This is actually going into the question I was going to or the hint I was going to give you is that it's a part of a gift, but that would just be completely. I'm putting like for some So for some people, I'm giving them like one of those plastic popcorn things and then putting this in there along with like some movie theater stuff and a red
Okay.
box certificate. And so there
Okay.
you go.
Okay.
Now you have a gift idea.
Yeah.
Woo! We do all sorts of things at the Pajama Party Profit Show. Yeah. So I can't feed you like through the stream, but we can talk about gift ideas. You did great. Yay. When I first started the show, we did it on Google uh, Google Hangouts. There was a Google Hangout, and we had those really cool things where I could do cheers, woo! And so I think I'm gonna have to find a new app because there's got to be buttons somewhere where I can.
Well, there's the reactions here.
Are they in here? Oh,
Yeah.
not online because I'm on a Chromebook, so
Oh, you don't have them, really?
I
Well,
don't.
I'm
I
doing them
have
online, so
I have the votes or whatever, but no, yeah, none of that. So I'm
okay.
gonna make that a thing if anybody's watching and wants to suggest an app, so I can press the button so everyone can go, yay! Steve won. Falling down confetti, you won. All right, cool. Thanks for playing, Steve.
Cool.
I rarely win. So
Well, you're generous with your number of questions. You're generous with your hints. So
I want the people who come on this show to feel welcome and be winners. So there you go. You played well. You played well. I
thank
was
you.
trying to think if I would have been able to guess it. I don't think I would, but I'm always looking for party games too. So if you're watching and you've got a great game for me to play with a guest, please tell me. It's like the hardest part of the whole show is just coming up with an idea to play, but you were great. So we're down to what is it now that you came up with? What are you? So we talked about that journey that people go through, and you were really good at like explaining that to us. But you wouldn't be here if you didn't have a business started
Sure.
that you could potentially run from home. So what is that, and how do people find out more about you?
Sure. So my business actually, so after leaving corporate finance and going through the creative wilderness and trying all kinds of different things, I eventually got an idea from Steve Olsher in his book, What is Your What? Which he has you list out like the 100 things that you do on a regular basis. And then not only do you list those out, but you rank them from first to 100. And the thing that came up at the top of that list was story, which now that I think about it, shouldn't have been a big surprise for me. But at the time it was. And it was kind of one of those things that's like, always in front of your face, but never, you don't see it because it's just so obvious. And the reason it's so obvious is that I've been in love with stories since I could pick up a book and, write or read or whatever. I'm always got 5 or 6 books and on hand and all that kind of thing. Anyway, so I realized that I could do something with story, but I do things with story that are a little bit different. Most of the time in a business setting, when people hear the word story, they're thinking marketing, which is, there's some truth to that. Story can be a really powerful way to do your marketing. But I've also found that story is a really great way to structure and to make sense of your business so that you can create a richer story, a more rewarding story, a more fulfilling story, such that you continually improve the rewards that you get as the business owner and the rewards that your audience gets, right? By getting clear as to what is at the heart of your story, you can get really clear as to the value that you bring out into the world. So what I do is I help my audience, my clients, get really clear on the story that they're telling and the story that's really at the heart of their lives. The story that has made a big impact in their life, and the conflict, the challenge, the transformation that they happily and eagerly and skillfully deliver for their audience that's eager to receive what they have. So that's what I do now. And the second part of your question, if I remember correctly, was how do people get in touch with me? Correct? You're muted. You're muted.
we're inviting people. That's because we have a lot of background noise here.
No.
We are trying to, the first thing that you said was that you are trying to help people with their story. You're actually starting your own YouTube channel, and you've compiled some interviews of people and their stories. And we want to make sure that people go ahead and check that channel out. So we'll make sure that we link to it here. And then you also have a website. What is that?
So my website is Gifts into Gold.
Okay. And if they go to, right, oh, that's important. So they go to giftsintogold.com/map, is it? And they have a gift from you?
Yes. Yeah. If they go to Gifts into Gold /map, MAP, then they can get my treasure map that will take them on the journey from their, what I call their cozy cottage, to their creative castle, and the steps that are along the way to navigate that journey.
Okay, tell me more about that. What do you mean by from their cozy? What do you mean by that? Give it to me.
Sure.
Like straight. Why do they want that?
So what your cozy cottage is where you are right now, where you're comfortable, and your castle is where you would be ideally, right? So let's say, you're comfortable here in your cottage, but it's not the life that you really want to be living. You want to be having, a bigger impact. You want to be having more income. You want to, have more fulfillment in the work that you're doing, right? And so by examining your story and asking yourself some questions, you can gain the insight that you need in order to go from that cozy cottage through your creative wilderness to your castle on the other side.
Wow, okay. I get that. So not really getting out of a comfort zone, but finding even more comfort where they're at. So finding an even more comfortable place. So a lot of people, a lot of taglines I hear would fit with this, which is stop surviving and start thriving.
Yes.
And you help them do that through a bigger story, a better story. So is it fair to say that that story is like a goal? Or because what I'm hearing, let me just tell you personally, you said that you did a lot of scripting and the morning writing that you would do. And if somebody's watching today who has not attempted this, it's life-changing. I didn't know that. You didn't even know this about me. I think I told you about my rabbit and how my rabbit really basically changed my life. But there's real, when I taught in the classroom and I taught 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders about writing, that was my very first lesson, is that, writing is magic. It's magical. And you can write things into existence. And some little girl over the summer was so excited to tell me, she said, I wrote that we went to Disneyland, and guess what? We went to Disneyland. Like, she was just so excited to come back and tell me that, she wrote things into existence. So is that, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but is that similar to what you're saying here?
Yes, very much so. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to suggest that everyone check this out. Whether you have a business, whether you want a business, or whether you're not even sure if you want a business, or if you have a business already, go check out what he says, giftsintogold.com/map, and find out your way to scripting your way into a new and even more wonderful world, one where we can travel whenever we want to, wherever we want to, and on whatever dime we have. Thank you so much. Did you have any last words that you want to share with my audience today?
Been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed this pajama party.
Yes. How can you not enjoy yourself when you win, right? Thanks so much, Steve. You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.